This episode is brought to you by DeSanto Propane. DeSanto has been serving the energy needs of upstate New York since 1937. They're a fourth-generation family-owned business that has prioritized dependability, reliability, and integrity. If you have energy needs, call DeSanto and tell them we sent you. Visit DeSantoPropane.com to learn more. And by the Fox family of dealerships on Route 5 in Auburn. Check out their vast inventory of new and used cars by visiting foxdealerships.com. From FingerLakes1.com, this is Inside the FLX. I'm Josh Durso, and today our program begins with an announcement of a new festival coming to the region. It's focused on birding, and it is coming to Cayuga County this spring, March 26th through 29th to be exact. And I have got three individuals in studio who are going to be talking about it. Montezuma Audubon Center Director Chris Lejeski, Sterling Nature Center Director Jim D'Angelo, and Karen Kuhl from Cayuga County Office of Tourism. Thank you all for being here. We got this together in pretty short notice, so I'm stoked about that. Chris, let's start with you and sort of get an overview of what we got going on here and how this came about.
Yeah, so March 26th through 29th, several birding organizations here in the Finger Lakes region are partnering on the inaugural Finger Lakes Birding Festival. Montezuma Audubon Center, Braddock Bay Raptor Research, Sterling Nature Center, and our colleagues at Onondaga Audubon are partnering on nearly 50 birding activities over the course of these 4 days to showcase the amazing bird migration that we have going on here in the Finger Lakes region in late March. So each of the 4 sites will be offering daily activities for the entire family to experience this very impressive migration. We'll have 3 dozen different duck, goose, and swan species migrating through, and about 20 species of birds of prey coming through as well, and hundreds of thousands of individual birds during that time frame. So we're really excited to bring this to the Finger Lakes region.
And I'm curious, how was that time frame selected? Was it based on migration patterns and kind of when the maximum opportunity was?
Yeah, that's the heart of the bird of prey and waterfowl migration season here in the Finger Lakes. It's when we're doing most of our tours already across the region. It just seemed like a perfect fit to bring our tourism colleagues into this mix. Obviously, the birding community was already in on this, and so we're really excited that this is coming together.
Okay, so you said so different events are going to be sort of separated throughout different sites, different locations, correct?
That's right.
Walk us through what folks are going to be able to expect at Montezuma, and then we'll kind of branch out from there.
Yeah, so Montezuma Audubon Center, Route 89 in Savannah, just north of the National Wildlife Refuge, is going to be offering multiple activities over the course of the 4 days. First couple of days are going to be focusing in on lectures from our conservation colleagues. We have U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, New York State DEC colleagues, and Ducks Unlimited colleagues talking about the Montezuma Wetlands Complex, what makes it such an important bird area. We're also going to talk about how the habitats are being restored and managed for birds of the wildlife and the enjoyment of people. We're going to be offering a number of tours over the course of the day. We have a couple of vans available to us. We'll load up people into the vans, take them out to the birding hotspots to encounter the incredible waterfowl migration that comes through Montezuma in March. As we get into the weekend time frame, we're going to be changing it up. Yes, the tours will continue, but we're going to be having some bird banding activities. We have Dr. John Van Neel from Finger Lakes Community College coming in for 2 bird banding demonstrations on Saturday, the 28th. And then in the afternoon of the 28th, we have Jean Soprano from Kindred Kingdoms coming in to bring her live birds of prey for an indoor program with our guests.
All right, so the Sterling Nature Center. Jim, how does Sterling sort of fit into this equation and this event? What are some of the things that are going to be going on there?
Well, Sterling Nature Center is right on the shore of Lake Ontario, so we get a lot of migrating birds that are flying along the shoreline, especially the raptors. They don't like crossing the water, so they head along the shoreline. So they'll be flying overhead. The habitat at the Nature Center is also very diverse. We have lots of wetlands, so different waterfowl from wood ducks, Hooded mergansers will be stopping by to feed in the wetlands and rest. And then being on the shore of Lake Ontario, a lot of the birds will be out there as well. And some of the birds that have overwintered, like red-breasted mergansers, buffleheads, ringneck ducks, we'll have a lot of diversity through there. And then we'll also try to pick up some of the local birds, the pileated woodpeckers, hopefully maybe a great horned owl or something will make an appearance, and we'll try to get a good diversity of birds through a good diversity of habitats.
And I want to hone in a little bit here, if we can, on the organizational aspect of this, because obviously this isn't something that just popped up out of nowhere. You guys clearly put a whole lot of energy and a lot of time into this. Chris, what was that process or that part of the process like? How long was the committee and sort of the different players involved talking about this and kind of working through how a 4-day festival at multiple locations would look and take shape?
This process of planning the inaugural festival has been about a 6-month period here. We've brought in the birding community. We've brought the tourism colleagues from Cayuga, Seneca, and Wayne counties into this. We're also partnering with many hotels and overnight stay accommodations throughout the Finger Lakes region. They're providing discounts for festival goers. So the idea is that people will come in from outside of the Finger Lakes region, stay with us for 4 days. We're putting heads in the beds to increase ecotourism here in the Finger Lakes region. So it's been a long process. I've had assistance certainly from our Audubon, New York colleagues as well to create the website, the registration page. And now it's all about getting the word out. We know the birds are going to be here. We have to bring the people in. And I think with this wonderful arrangement of activities, the varied activities we have across the 4 sites, and all the other activities that go on in the Finger Lakes region, the wineries, the breweries, and other activities, I think this is going to be a big draw for the Finger Lakes. And
Karen, we have you, the tourism expert, with us. Walk us through what this opportunity looked like when you were brought in and started to see what was going on here.
When I first heard about the project and about a birding festival, I thought it was an ideal opportunity for us to highlight the beautiful nature that we have in the Finger Lakes. The Finger Lakes is ideally located not only for human traffic but bird traffic as well. And our assets in that respect are so wonderful. Between the lakes and the mountains and the trails, we really have an asset that the bird market is ideal for us to take advantage of it.
Right.
Birders are naturalists. They love the preservation aspect. Therefore, our hiking trails and the water are ideal products to deliver. I feel that the event, it posed itself an opportunity to open up the marketing to a broad range of interested parties. Families are wonderful travelers, and this is also very much couples event. So it allows us to introduce the rest of the product that's available. Like Chris mentioned, the Finger Lakes have so much to offer. And if the umbrella of the birds will help them see the rest of the product is an ideal thing. The season is wonderful. The spring, the upcoming spring season, especially right now, it feels like spring's already coming. It's so beautiful and
there.
Bright sun outside. It's a wonderful time for people to come and experience everything the Finger Lakes has to offer. So I was very happy when I heard about it, and I jumped right on board to learn more and see how our office can help collaborate with the facilitation of organizing the event, but as well as the marketing effort to let people know about it. As Chris mentioned, getting heads in beds is one of our priorities, but it's also to showcase the wide variety of products that we have available.
Now, Chris and Jim, too, I want to get your perspectives, collective perspectives on this. There's going to be a lot of folks who listen to this and watch this and say, how is this just happening? How is this event just happening? Birding, the presence of both Sterling and Montezuma in the Finger Lakes, significant to say the least. How is an event like this just now coming about in 2020? It seems like a lot of folks are going to say, Hasn't this been going on for like 20 years?
Well, the Montezuma Audubon Center has been in existence for 13 years now, so we're well established now. But it has been a mixture of partnerships over the 13 years that has allowed us to grow and get to this point. We've been working very closely with Braddock Bay Raptor Research and Dana Ford and her team out there in the Rochester community, also with our colleagues in the Syracuse area at Onondaga Lake, and highlighting the incredible variety of waterfowl that utilize that lake and the incredible number of bald eagles that now overwinter at the lake, which can be upwards of 100 birds. So we're certainly partnering with multiple agencies and organizations. This is really the first time where we're all in on one event together, and it's been a really great process. Really excited to get this word out, certainly for the late March festival, but we also see this as an opportunity to continue to bring people here into the Finger Lakes region throughout the rest of the year to enjoy everything that we have to offer, the birds and other activities.
Now, when we talk about the raising awareness, obviously tourism is part of that conversation, but we're also talking about the natural things that are around us. At the close of this 4-day festival, what is going to be a couple of the things that you hope as far as increased awareness about when it comes to the birds, both Jim at Sterling and also at Montezuma? What are some of the things that you're hoping are the big takeaways? Jim, let's start with you.
We're hoping to make people aware of what we have. I think each center has always done their own thing. This is getting together. It's going to broaden our audience, get more people to come in, so that we're working together to help spread the word a little bit further than each individual center could have.
Has that historically been one of the bigger challenges? I think the interesting component here might be that the distance between Montezuma and Sterling, you might assume that they're fairly close together, but actually there's a little bit of distance between you guys, right? Mm-hmm. So has that been a challenge to get folks sort of in both places?
It is. I think people get their favorite spot and go to one place, and they don't like to travel outside of that. So working together, getting people to know what each other's offer, different things and different habitats, different things to see, different times of the year, I think that'll help bring everybody up and bring more people in.
And what I would hope that people go away with from the Montezuma perspective is that we all have a role in helping birds throughout the course of their lifespan. Yes, they're going to be stopping here through the Finger Lakes region during a very impressive migration, which could be from as far away as Central South America, stopping here at Montezuma for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then going further north to the Arctic tundra where they're going to raise their family. Well, that's a very impressive journey, and there are a lot of obstacles in the birds' way. There are things that we can do in our daily lives that help the birds along this journey, planting more native vegetation in our yards, communities, schools, removing invasive plant species, using less carbon, driving less, polluting less, will all benefit the birds during this impressive journey.
And when we look at the tourism component, how much of this is also an effort to sort of raise that awareness about this region is more than just wine and beer and things like that, sort of the traditional things that a lot of folks associate with tourism and the Finger Lakes in central New York?
The Finger Lakes region offers such a diverse offer of the product that it is impressive, and it's exactly like you said. Ideally, when somebody thinks of the Finger Lakes, they will think of the lakes and they will think of the wines, because that's what's been promoted the most, and we are pretty rocking good at it. Yeah. But there is, the birding is just one of the examples of the additional and side product that people will come and enjoy here, and that's what's beautiful about having different hooks, so to say, to bring people interested. The birders will come because there's the birds, but they will find out about all the other product around it. And somebody who will be traveling in the region, just thinking about going to, check out the new breweries around, will find out about the festival and will realize what a beautiful product we have for nature. And like Chris mentioned, I always think of tourism as a way to spread knowledge and to spread awareness and cultural sensitivity of different regions. That goes hand in hand with the birds and what the birds teach us about migration and about respect to our environment and respect to our own homeland. And having traveled internationally and followed the birds' migration, so to say, I have a sensitivity to preservation throughout the entire reach that the birds will go through. And I think this kind of event opens people's eyes to this reality, and they'll realize that it has a touch with their hometown wherever they might be as well. And that's hopefully part of the message they will take home with them.
And Chris, I want to sort of jump back into the nature side of this. I don't want anybody who's listening to think that you need to be an experienced birder to take part in this. There are going to be things for everyone, correct? Like, this is going to be a wide-ranging event.
That's right. From the introductory birder, the novice birder, to the mid-level and experience, there's going to be something for everyone. I mentioned the lectures before, giving the broad overview of what the Montezuma Wetlands complex is all about. We have multiple tours going on daily to connect people to these areas. A lot of people come to the Audubon Center and say, wow, I didn't know you were here. You've been here 13 years, but I didn't know you were here. I just thought Montezuma was that spot you see on the thruway. Well, this festival will help broaden people's vision of the complex. It'll let them know that there's 50,000 acres of habitat here, bird habitat and habitat for people to come and recreate throughout the year as well. We're going to be, the families that will be coming in are really going to appreciate the live birds of prey that we have with Gene Soprano on Saturday afternoon, the 28th of March. The 29th of March, the Sunday, the final day, the Audubon Center is leading a couple of tours. So it's going on all day long, something for everyone. They can come and participate in our programs. We have registration available online right now, montezuma.audubon.org. The entire festival schedule is there. The link to registration is there as well. We're doing all online registration this year, making it very convenient for folks. But then if folks don't want to participate in our programs, well, they can simply come and enjoy the rest of the habitat here throughout the Finger Lakes region on their own.
Mm-hmm. And Jim, when you look at an event like this, and even just when you guys are sort of operating on the day-to-day, how important is it to make sure that you're getting this information, these kinds of events, the programs, et cetera, into the hands of the next generation so that there is a continued line of birders here in the region and that, are continued to grow and grow interest in that?
Yeah, it's very important for every generation, even not just the younger, but even the older and mid-generations, to gain a better appreciation and better knowledge of what we have here and what's available, and then what that needs. Like Chris was saying, we're just kind of a stopover for a lot of these birds that are traveling thousands of miles, and they need stopovers all the way along that route to rest and feed. And we're changing the environment a lot lately, and we need to make sure we're preserving places for them to stop, Montezuma, Sterling, and others along the route, so that they just not the nesting in summer grounds, but also all those places in between that they need. And both of our sites are rather large. Sterling Nature Center is about 1,400 acres, right on the shore of Lake Ontario, so all those birds that are migrating along the lake have a spot to rest and feed during their migration spring and fall. So birds can be a kind of a hook to get people into a wider thing. If you start looking at birds or butterflies and you realize they need habitat, and everything kind of starts getting connected for people. So even though we're doing a birding festival, it'll hopefully help give people a better and a wider knowledge of and connection to the environment and to nature.
And Chris, you and I were talking before we came on here. Obviously, changes are happening in the climate, and I would imagine that this, like any festival of this type, or any program for that matter, this is a solid opportunity to sort of learn more about the real life implications of some of those changes that we're seeing happen in the background. Talk us through some of the changes maybe that have happened in the last couple years, patterns that you guys have ordinarily seen at Montezuma, but seem a little different or a little off now.
We used to tell people, if you want to see the waterfowl migration here in Montezuma and throughout the Finger Lakes, start looking at the March time frame. Watch the southerly winds starting to blow, the warmer early spring days, 40, 50-degree weather. Get here in March. It could be early, could be late, somewhere in the middle. But that's usually when we were seeing the birds coming through, and we were doing a lot of tours focused around the waterfowl migration. 2 and 3 years ago, we started to see the snow geese and the waterfowl migrating through the third week of February. That's something we have never seen before, and a big change, and we think that is a direct result of this changing climate that we're all a part of now. Just on a run yesterday, I was watching snow geese migrating north over Cayuga Lake. They shouldn't be here yet. They're a month early, and again, reflective of a changing climate. And so things are changing. We know birds' ranges are expanding northward, and in tropical areas, their ranges are expanding upward or higher in elevation if they don't want to leave that niche or that place where they're living. But elevation is a place where they can reach a cooler climate, a more amendable climate that they're used to in order to raise a family and survive.
And when you talk about the impact that has on some of these different species across the board, there are sort of real-life implications there too, correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we're talking changing climate, it's not just birds and insects that are being impacted. This is impacting us. This is affecting all of us. And so we're all in this together. And I think this festival is a great way to talk about how people can influence policymakers, at a local, state, national level to enact more conservation legislation, which will certainly improve the quality of life for birds and other wildlife, but in doing so, make our air, our water cleaner and healthier for us. And
looking forward to the event, obviously we're about a month and a half away from it. Greatest expectation for a first-year event like this. Karen, I want to sort of swing to you on this one because you're in tourism. You're working in this every day. What are the expectations for a first-year festival like this in a region where there are a lot of festivals, but this one stands out in a lot of ways because it is so unique compared to what others there are around?
It is unique because of the diversity of the product that's being offered geographically, the collaboration with the organizations that are participating. First, we need to establish a stronghold on the event. We need to, that's why we're here, let people aware that the event is going on and have people come and witness it, see it. 90% of the first time events, you will realize like, I could have done this better. We will try this next time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's why you have an inaugural event, and that's why you launch it, and that's why you look support from your local chapters, your local schools, your local towns to come and help you try it out. This group that we've been working with has thought out about a lot of things. So I think it's very well planned out, and the path looks very well established. So I'm sure it will be a successful event. Great expectations for me are not only regional awareness of the different products. I want people to head up to Sterling Nature Center and see what an amazing asset it really is, not just the center, but the entire region, and what beautiful surprises await you up there. But also get all of our friends and relatives who are here and witness the product to tell the friends and relatives next to them, and then they tell the friends and relatives next to them. We are attempting a broad outreach to try to get people from outside to come in, but I think year 2 and year 3 we will see a lot more growth of acknowledgement of the festival, and then we'll see much broader outreach for it as well.
And obviously a lot of great signs pointing toward a continued growing tourism industry here in the Finger Lakes across the board. But if when you're asked sort of broadly, what is the state of tourism in Cayuga County, how do you answer that, or how do you sort of measure the growth that you see year in, year out? And what do you sort of consider the benchmarks for hey, this is awesome, this is going really well, or maybe this other item is slowing down a little bit, or maybe it isn't quite performing the way we would have thought it would?
Well, the most simple metrics are numbers. Numbers are always the ones we fall back on, and the numbers indicate that tourism is on the rise and it is steadily increasing. It's not a sharp increase, which is much healthier to go slow and steady. But we also work a lot with the local communities and the product itself. How did you see the tourism? So it's not only the number of people that are coming, but who is coming, and what do they think of the destination? How healthy a relationship is it between tourist and resident? And festivals like this tend to bring in people who really care about their travel footprint and the impact that they have on the environment where they visit and the memories they take back with them. The Finger Lakes in general, in my experience, has very high quality people who travel here, and they travel for different experiences that they can take back home as well.
And Chris and Jim, I want to get both of your takes on this. The state of birding and sort of the conservation side of the tourism space. When you think about what it is today versus what it might have been 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe even further back, where do you sort of place it in terms of its growth cycle?
We're seeing a lot of people from all over, I'd say a 5 to 6 hour drive coming to the Finger Lakes region right now. It's strong. Certainly we see most of our visitors from about an hour or so drive, but increasingly throughout the whole Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Midwest states. And then on those occasions, especially during the summer months, we'll see folks from outside the immediate region, and we'll see people from California and Texas. Even international travelers are stopping at Montezuma to experience the 50,000 acres of habitats, the unique mosaic of habitats that we have in a fairly confined area. It's unlike anything else in the whole Northeast, which is the draw. So increased visitation and bird watchers for sure, and we know that bird watchers are a real driver in the local economies. Birds mean business. They really do. And we're talking millions of bird watchers here in New York alone, spending over $1 billion annually in trips, in gear, in overnight accommodations when they're going to experience birders. So this is going to be a draw and a boon to the Finger Lakes region as this festival grows.
And Jim, obviously, the changes that you've seen in recent years, what makes you feel really good about the direction that birding is going and how this festival can sort of help that along?
There's been a bigger focus in the environment in recent years, and birding is, of course, a part of that. And the tourism and the ecotourism around birding is continuing to grow and has been growing for decades. Digital cameras as well make it easier for people to take photos and remember what they're seeing and help identify what they're seeing. So that's, I think, helped boost some of the ecotourism around birding as well. And people aren't afraid to travel to go see what's next door, what's in the next state. A lot more, I think, traveling has been taking place to seeing birds recently. And still a lot of local people coming, but it's good to see somebody from out of state, or Chris was saying, somebody from out of the country coming in to see what we have to offer, and we're seeing more of that.
I want to jump on that before we wrap up here. Technology, especially as Jim just framed it, it seems like it's in some ways lowered the barrier to get into birding with essentially computers in our hands to be able to figure out what you're looking at any given moment. Has there been a noticeable shift there in terms of what you guys have seen and sort of more folks getting into it, because you don't have to have books, you don't have to have a really fancy film camera anymore? It's sort of shifted into more of a run and gun style kind of hobby, if they want it to be?
Right. It's at everyone's fingertips now, and anyone can be out anywhere and figure out what bird they're looking at, because there are these apps now where you answer a simple question or a few questions, and it'll give you pretty much the bird that you're looking at based on the answers to those questions. You can also document the bird's location, which helps guide conservation work for Audubon, but also for places like the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. So there's this wonderful eBird app that anyone can download to a phone, and anyone can keep track of birds, whether it's in their backyard, at Sterling Nature Center, Braddock Bay, Onondaga Lake, Montezuma. You can keep track of birds at any point during the year.
That's awesome. So one more time before we go, where can folks learn more about this, register, whatever they have to do to get into this 4-day festival?
Right. Finger Lakes Birding Festival is March 26th through 29th. Registration and the entire festival schedule is at montezuma.audubon.org. Folks can also follow us on our Facebook page. Keep track of all the latest bird sightings, great photos, and videos that we're going to be posting.
All right. I thank all of you for being here. Really appreciate it. Great talk.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks for joining us this hour on Inside the FLX. I'm Josh Durso, and we'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, download the FingerLakes1.com app to have the latest local breaking news, alerts, and podcasts delivered right to your hand each and every day. Follow and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy the program and can support us, head over to patreon.com/FL1 to pledge monthly support. If you have an idea for a show or simply want to let your voice be heard, drop us an email or leave us a voice message by visiting InsideTheFLX.com. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you back here next week.